events around the country, developing research, publishing case studies, and particularly through our weekly radio shows, shining a light on great practice. And these weekly radio shows are now streaming live on YouTube. Simply search Engage for Success Radio podcast. Or you can find the full archive at engageforsuccess.org, where you can learn more about us and sign up for our weekly newsletter. So as I say, I'm Jo Moffat. I'm one of the 3 regular hosts for Engage for Success Radio. And as with everyone who supports the movement, we're all volunteers with day jobs. Having sold the consultancy I founded, Woodreed, to Seven Seas, the culture consultancy, I now work for them as a senior consultant, supporting their clients to help create workplace cultures that make workplaces work for employees as well as their shareholders and stakeholders. So today is the topic that is on everybody's lips, really. I don't go to a single conference or get invited to webinars that haven't got this somewhere in their agenda, and it's AI. But this is an interesting take on it, and I'm very pleased to welcome today, to help explore today's topic, Gustavo Razzetti, who is CEO of Fearless Culture and a best-selling author of Forward Talk. And today's topic, radio show number 653, believe it or not, is AI didn't break workplace culture, it exposed it. And it's a really interesting take on this, and I think one that will be very positive. And so I'm very pleased to welcome Gus today to the show to help us explore the topic in a bit more detail. As I say, Gus is a best-selling author of Remote, Not Distance, and Stretch for Change, and his forthcoming book, Forward Talk, is coming out now. When is it coming out, Gus?
It's already out. I mean,
it's already out, so it's no longer forthcoming.
First of all, thank you for hosting me, Jo. The book was out here in the US in May, and then it was rolled out a few weeks ago in Europe. So it should be available in Europe now. The UK
Lovely,
and beyond.
jolly good, jolly good. And I know you've worked with leadership teams at major organisations, both in the US and globally. So you know what you're talking about, that's for sure. So I'm very pleased to have you here to help us explore this topic, which I think is a very important one. So let's get started.
Sure.
I know you talk about AI not having created many of today's workplace problems, it's simply exposed them and amplified them. So perhaps we should start there. Tell us what you think it is that AI is revealing about how teams and leaders already operate that perhaps we haven't been necessarily aware of.
Yeah, I think that AI, it's accelerating everything. And also when it comes to culture, to the workplace, it amplifies what was already there, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and even the things that weren't there, right? So AI, like any technology, is not going to turn people who are fighting each other into collaborative teams. Actually, it's going to amplify those dimensions or those practices, right? So the problems were there. Now AI is making them not only worse, the good part, it's making them more obvious, more evident.
Right.
So when leaders are talking about we need to increase AI adoption, the most important thing they need to understand is what are the barriers, what are the things that are getting in the way? Because in the end, AI adoption, it's culture transformation. So what are the mindsets, what are the behaviors, what are the practices in order for people to collaborate better? Let me give you an example. We have a lot of places in which people don't trust each other or trust is not that high. Well, now we're seeing research that's showing that people trust AI more than they do trust their own colleagues.
Are we really?
Even subject matter experts, they're brought into a meeting to provide all their expertise, decades of research or working in a particular field, and people go to ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, you name it, and they check people's responses against those AI tools. Right. So this is a phenomenon. It's okay to validate, but if everyone's second guessing their colleagues and the experts, that doesn't help build a thriving culture.
No, No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And it's incredibly disrespectful, isn't it? Really. I mean, you do. I think this is one of the things that you see now, and it's really a function of the fact that more often than not our meetings are online, workshops can be online, webinars are online, and you in a way that people wouldn't necessarily have once done in face-to-face meetings when they were actually engaging and making eye contact with each other. You often see people behind their laptop screen on screen, don't you? And you can see that they're doing something else. You can see that they're not they're not totally tuned into what's going on. And if they're simply asking ChatGPT to tell them whether what they're listening to is true or not, I mean that's incredibly disrespectful, isn't it?
It is. It is. First of all, that we need to break that tension that it's either human collaboration or AI collaboration. We need to have both. I like to think of AI or the multiple AI tools and agents like other team members. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to think how we collaborate with human beings. We need to redefine how we collaborate with AI agents the same way. But going back to your point, it's annoying when people are not using the camera, or when they're looking. I remember I was in a workshop helping one company redefine their values. And there was this guy saying, "No, I'm asking ChatGPT." And I say, "You know what? You can do whatever, but values are something that come from within. It's how you lead, how you make decisions, actually what you value, what you're prioritizing. You cannot
Mm-hmm.
ask ChatGPT to tell you which values should drive your company."
Mm. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, do you think then, Gus, that AI can make the good better and the poor worse? I mean, is it as simple as that?
Well, I don't know if that's it's simple, but it has also its nuances, right? But in teams that people were already used to collaboration, they learn how to document things when working remotely. Using AI can turn your meetings minutes into a living document that you can track all the decisions, that you can find information without having to go to
Mm-hmm.
someone else and ask. It reduces,
Mm-hmm.
for example, when you're bringing on new employees and you need to
Mm.
train them, whatever, that reduces the time and the reliance on other people. However, let's talk about multitasking, right? It
Mm.
was always a myth, no? When you're multitasking, you're multi nothing. No, you're doing nothing well. And what we are seeing now, there's a lot of, and especially leaders that deploy their AI note takers. So instead of joining a meeting, they say they are note taker, right? And they do this to every meeting because, oh, I can now show up without showing up to dozens of meetings. So what happens, it's two things. First, leaders want to get more involved in things that they shouldn't. Second, no one reads those summaries because you're getting so many AI summaries from different meetings that people actually don't check them. And lastly, decisions get postponed because instead of having the leader attending the meeting, instead of having the leader making a decision because they send their AI note taker, the
Mm.
meeting is not worth it, and we need to reschedule until the actual leader, not their note taker, shows up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yes, absolutely. Yeah. Note takers can't make decisions. That's for sure. Yeah. I know one of the things that you talk about is a concept called conversational debt. Gus, I wonder if you could explain for our listeners a little bit about what that means and how that relates to AI and the impact of that.
Absolutely. Conversational depth is the key concept that I explain. Not only that's the a problem I'm trying to solve, but also forward talk. My book explains how to deal with it. And
Hmm.
the same way we have financial debt, or hopefully we don't, when we don't pay our credit card statement, we start accruing interests, right?
Yeah.
The same happened to teams when they don't address the issues when they postpone conversations, they avoid conflict, or maybe they address those issues superficially, right? It's a
Okay.
little thing here and there. Maybe we say, hey, I don't want to get into a tough conversation with my colleague. Maybe something happened. Maybe someone didn't respect a deadline, or they didn't show up on time to a meeting, or they didn't do their work and we need to basically do it ourselves. Well, all those things that we don't address, that we're not maybe totally on the same page, that we're not aligned, those things start to pile up. And if we don't take care of that, that conversational depth starts to grow and grow. And conversational depth affects teams in three elements. So it harms alignment, it hurts belonging, so that sense of connection, trust, psychological safety, and
Yeah.
also it affects day-to-day collaboration, from meetings, decision making, and so on and so forth.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. It's not a term I've heard used before, so it's an interesting concept. But I can understand from the way you've described it how damaging that can be. And where does AI fit into that? Can AI help address and prevent conversational debt building up, or does AI simply make it worse?
Once again, depending on how we use AI. So we go back
Uh-huh.
to the culture. So AI, as I was mentioning, can help. For example, people can prepare. Sometimes people are afraid of bringing up an issue, and AI can coach you on how to create that. You can record a meeting and then ask AI, what are the topics that we are not really going deep? What are the key events that keep resurfacing into each meeting, right?
Mhm.
Maybe finish a meeting with the agreements and start with the new agreements to make sure that you keep that focus, right? And then
Mhm.
AI can help you identify where that conversation is not happening or not working really well. But also, as I was mentioning before, when we rely in AI, when we trust AI, when we don't really pay attention, we don't really are in the meetings because we're checking our phones or letting our conversational, like our transcript agent attend the meeting for us. Well, that's not necessarily helping, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, I get that. Interesting. I saw an interesting report, and I should have dug into it a little bit more deeply if I'd thought about it, but I hadn't connected that we were going to be talking about this in quite the same way today. But I saw an interesting report the other day, which was that um, it was suggesting that employers, managers, leaders in companies are finding that what we might call AI natives, younger employees who have absolutely used AI for absolutely everything and are kind of STEM, science, technology, maths type people, are just coming up with the same ideas, bland same ideas in meetings and in business. And actually, there's a kickback against that. And people are starting to say, well, actually, what I want to do is employ people with humanities degrees and humanities topics because they tend to be able to think more creatively and more laterally, and have better ideas rather than a sort of um, vanilla amalgamated type of ideas that AI can produce. And I know, I think that chimed with me really when I was thinking about what you talk about in terms of groupthink, Gus. And is this something that you've come across? Do you do you think that AI can make groupthink worse, or can kind of homogenize thinking so that it all becomes very bland and samey, rather than, obviously, you often need a fresh approach and a fresh idea. And I wonder whether you think AI can be powerful to do that, or whether it does tend to be more kind of lowest common denominator stuff. Am I making myself clear? Do you understand what I mean?
You are totally, and actually, you're that's music to my ears because when the forward talk framework, one of the issues that creates that conversational depth, it's actually groupthink. It's the
Okay.
illusion that we're making progress, but we're not actually solving the things. And to your point, groupthink can happen whether because we want to agree to move on. No, sometimes people go with the majority not
Mm-hmm.
because they agree with the decision, but basically they don't want to go through the effort of asking questions, challenging people, and they
Mm-hmm.
put being part of the group as
Mm,
something more important than what's the outcome. When
mm,
it comes to ideas, AI plays a huge role in promoting groupthink for two
mm,
things. We know that AI is really agreeable, it's really nice, so it usually presents ideas. And when you're trying to use AI to select ideas, it tends to recommend those that everyone's going to like them.
right.
But that we get consensus about which idea should we pursue, that doesn't mean that it's the same idea, right? We're lowering the bar. You were
Mm,
talking about vanilla content or vanilla like a outcome. Well, exactly the same happens when people use AI for brainstorming. When everyone uses the same model, they give them the same input, they're going to get the same output. And
mm-hmm.
you, as a leader, are going to get a lot of people coming to you with exactly the same ideas, similar language, a very similar direction, and that's not good. Lastly, what happens also is that people don't filter the work. No, you probably know the term work slop, which basically refers to low quality work
Yeah.
output from AI, and people are not filtering. So when it comes to ideas, people get 3 ideas, they see, wow, they look great. They should send them to their manager, and then the manager has to make sense. What am I going to do with these
Yeah.
mediocre ideas, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So I mean, there's a real contradiction here, isn't there, and a real risk for leadership within organisations, because on the one hand, they're looking to uh, increase AI adoption. They're investing serious sums of money very often in AI tools and AI programs and agents. And yet there's a real risk that that might actually not take them in the direction that they ought to be heading for success. So what do leaders particularly need to be thinking about when it comes to AI so that they and their people don't fall into some of the traps that you've been talking about?
Do you think from a leadership standpoint, or
I'm
what do you have
thinking
in mind?
about
Give me an example. Maybe
well,
that I need like
I'm thinking
inspiration.
about yeah, no, I'm thinking well, let me reframe the question, Gus. What do leaders need to do to make sure they get the best out of their investment in AI?
Yeah, I think the other day I was reading a lot about this, which is AI matters, but I think that people are getting blindsided because everyone's saying, how can we use AI more, right?
Hmm.
And for
Yep.
me, the right question is, what's the problem that we need to solve first? And then how can AI help us, right?
Right.
Eh,
Okay.
I think
So
we
we
are
need to
starting
ask
the
the
other way
right
around.
question. We
Sorry?
need to ask the right question in the first place.
Yes, you're right. And the thing
Yeah.
is, many times companies, and you know this because of your work too, they rush into solving problems, but often they're solving the wrong problem, right?
Mm. Yeah.
So, and with AI, that's exactly, no. I see a lot of people that call me, large companies, they want to accelerate AI adoption. And I, of course, I ask them, what for? I say, well, because we need to win the AI. And I say, yeah, but AI, it's a means to an end. What are you trying to achieve? What do you want
Yes.
to do?
Yes, yes, yeah, absolutely. And you know, we all we all have sort of, blind spots in our thinking, don't we? We can all be guilty of that.
Count me in.
How how could I use AI to try and stop me from falling into that sort of a trap, to challenge my thinking rather than just sort of agreeing with me?
That's a great thing. First of all, and once again, we mentioned that AI tends to be agreeable, even if they try to fix the models. That's what
Mm,
happens, right?
yeah,
Because it has this, it tries to understand you from a rational standpoint.
yeah,
So one thing that's interesting is I use different AI tools and I ask one to challenge what the other is saying, but I use like different personas, right? So a persona that's more like the a devil's advocate, right?
yes,
That sees everything that's wrong, what's missing. I
hmm,
see another persona that's going to show me the optimism, everything that's going to work in the plan, blah, blah. And then an expert, right? And depending on the project, there's a persona that could be an engineer, could be a healthcare expert. So I asked them to give me 3 different points of view. And basically, this is the decision reviewed through these lenses, and then show me what would you recommend. So someone is going to defend it, another one is going to attack it, and another is going to focus on finding holes, right? Or
right,
sometimes I
right,
use the detective mentality, think like Sherlock Holmes would do, connect the
yes,
dots, what's missing, what. So
yeah,
forcing to see, because this happened at work the same, without AI, when we have team members that all see the problem through the same lens, then we
hmm.
get into groupthink.
There's
But
groupthink
forcing
happening
people
again.
to
Yeah.
see through different lenses, it's going to surface different perspectives.
Yes, yes, no, absolutely. And so actually, it's simply a matter of changing the prompt to actually ask it to think in terms of a different persona, can actually generate a very different outcome to what you might otherwise get. That's what you're saying? Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's funny you should say that. I was only talking to somebody yesterday actually, and saying how I can't bear the way, in this instance, it's Copilot that will say to me, "Oh, that's a great question," or "Oh, that's a fabulous challenge,"
Uh-huh.
I think, "Oh, for goodness sake, don't try and make out that you're my best mate." And I actually told it to stop blowing smoke up my unmentionable, and it stopped. So it's you do actually have to tell them what you want and be quite firm with them sometimes, don't you?
Yes, yes. But once again, we need to adjust to, right? And I think the most important thing is we should not delegate decision making to AI,
No.
right?
Yeah.
Especially when I talk about, because people are going to say, well, AI can, if you need to schedule a meeting, they can schedule it for you. So there's a lot of things that are being automated by
Hmm.
AI. I'm talking about complex decisions, right?
Yeah.
Decisions that require different lenses, decisions like many decisions that leaders make, that a lot of things are not well defined, that they're unclear, that there's a lot of a kind of a holes, so to speak, that
Hmm.
AI is going to make a lot of assumptions. And that's where leaders' intuition comes to mind. So leaders need to use their rational brain, but also that intuition, that expertise, that
Mm.
insight from being there and doing your job for many, many years, that
Yeah.
brings you a fresh perspective.
Yeah, that expertise and experience, which
Yeah.
is actually, when people say listen to their gut, it's generally because they're actually building you listening to their own expertise and experience. It's just easier to call it listening to their gut, isn't it? But you can only develop your gut to come up with good things if you've got the experience and the expertise very often.
Mhm.
I'm conscious of our time, Gus, and I just want to finish, if I may, with one final question for you. Which is, I know your book, Forward Talk, coming right back to sort of where we started, your book Forward Talk, which is now published in Europe as well as in the US, helps address. You talk about how that can help address the conversational debt and stop um, those conversations that have been avoided from being avoided, and how you can help teams make decisions and commit to follow through on those decisions so that things actually happen. I wonder whether you can just finish up with a brief explanation of what we mean by forward talk. What does that mean, and how can it help us turn those avoided conversations into decisions and commitments that really stick?
Yeah, long story short, forward talk is when you move into the future. So instead of getting stuck into what happened, blame, historic patterns, you focus into resolution, commitment, moving forward, but also addressing the issues. So you're not just, like I mentioned earlier, groupthink, it's the illusion of moving forward, but you're not fixing the issue. Forward
Right.
talk includes both. Like we are fixing the thing, the root cause, and
Mm-hmm.
also making progress, right? So, for example, when teams say, hey, we don't have budget for this is not going to work, we tried this before, the
Mm-hmm.
spirit that we want to bring to the table is how can we make it work? Which other projects can we deprioritize to make money for it? What has changed in the context that would make this new idea work, even if it didn't work 3 years ago, right? So it
Right.
shifts the mindset into a more a positive, proactive, and abundant mindset. But also it drives commitment from people to execute toward
Right.
it. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So very, very literally what it says, it's thinking ahead positively, looking to the future and looking at what we're going to do rather than dwelling too much on what we've done and why things haven't done what we
Mhm.
wanted before. Yeah. Okay.
Indeed.
Great stuff. Lovely. I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you very much to Gustavo Razzetti, CEO of Fearless Culture, and as I mentioned at the beginning, author of the most recently published Forward Talk, amongst other books. Thank you very much, Gus, for joining us today. Thank you for listening to Engage for Success Radio. Don't forget, you can download or stream any of the great shows from our archive at any time. And if you want to get involved in the movement, get in touch at engageforsuccess.org too. You can also download our latest employee engagement survey and index. The 2026 report is now published and available at our website too. So do please seek that out. So thank you, Gus, for joining us. Thanks for listening, and goodbye to everybody. Bye-bye now.
Thank you, Joe, and everyone. Bye-bye.
Engage for Success Radio, raising the profile of employee engagement and shining a light on good practice for people who believe there's a better way to work.